your way live.
All right, so welcome to our first ever. This is the HBCU Roundtable, and it's myself along with 7 other panelists that are going to address the issues that we have that are centered around the HBCU experience, which includes the HBCU recruitment, fundraising, the undergraduate experience, things that's going on with the George Floyd protests, influence of HBCU alums, and also voting. I'm going to start here with myself. Of course, I am Keisha J. Kelly. I am a 2003 graduate of Southern University A&M College, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with a degree in psychology. I'm also a 2019 graduate of University of Phoenix with a master's in business administration. Of course, once again, I am the CEO and founder of Black College Experience, which is the HBCU sports podcast that advocates towards positive exposure with HBCU athletics in our institutions. And we also award scholarships to students that are currently enrolled at HBCUs or plan on attending a HBCU. Now I'm going to go to my panel, my wonderful panel. We're going to start here with Adrian, that is a graduate of Morgan State. Adrian,
hey,
tell us who you are.
Hey, y'all. Hey, I am Adrian, the PR diva. That is my name. That is how people know me. There's this bug that's not trying to let me be great. My bad. I graduated from Morgan State with a degree in public relations. I've had my PR company for almost 20 years. I graduated in 2013. Because I had a brief moment of feeling like I needed a degree to transition my business into something more profitable, which isn't always necessarily the case. But I do work with my clients to help them build their brand, to bring exposure to all the things that they do through earned media, through branding, exposure, events, anything that they need. My clients are mainly in the celebrity, entertainment, lifestyle, and wellness spaces, although I work with entrepreneurs as well who need help in securing their brand and bringing more attention to the opportunities that they have. So I look forward to talking to you all, engaging, and sharing a little more about myself.
Okay, Anthony?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I am Anthony Brown. I am a graduate of Bethune-Cookman University. I am hailing from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been a part of this HBCU experience, probably, like just all of us, we've been on the battlefield advocating for our schools ever since we graduated. I now serve as the national president of the National Alumni Council for UNCF. That means I represent over 500,000 alumni, 60,000 students and family and friends and everybody else who wants to support HBCUs, even public and private institutions, doesn't matter. Sometimes we're on the same battlefield because we're all related, because the fact that we all were founded before 1964, we all had to educate African Americans, and we all had to have accreditation, so that's our common denominator. Our funding may be different, but we all the same, we family. I'm glad to be here and be part of this conversation today. So before we go, I'm gonna say this real quick, because I'm so used to doing, it's not used to me not being in the host seat, but I'm okay with that. Everyone who's watching, make sure you hit that like, hit those share button. See that like button down at the bottom? Hit the likes, hit the share. But you gotta hit the share. You can copy the URL. So go up the top, copy that URL and paste it to your own page. Hit the like button at the bottom so we can let people know what's going on and let us know how we're doing. So there you go, Keisha.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Now we're gonna move on to Lamont, another Morgan State Bear.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lamont Jenkins, a graduate of the Morgan State University, class of 2012. I also was a member of the Magnificent March Machine at Morgan State University. I am currently seeking my degree in Administration of Justice, majoring in Homeland Security, and I currently work in the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Looking forward to chatting with you all.
Okay, we'll go over to Creslin, that is a graduate of Alabama A&M. Start here, go anywhere. Creslin.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am Creslin Valerie Fleming. I bring you greetings from the illustrious Alabama A&M University in Normal, Alabama. I am a 1991 graduate. in telecommunications, also former Miss Alabama A&M University 1990-91, and a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I look forward to a robust conversation, and greetings to you all.
Okay, so before we move on, Crystalline used robust and illustrious. See, she brought it. Alabama A&M
How Bulldogs do it. That's how Bulldogs do it.
Right, Bulldogs brought it. So Jamal, because you going last, you going to have to end something. You got to bring them back. All right, so now we're going over to Orjanelle that is representing for Tuskegee.
Sorry, I am a graduate of the Pride of the Swift Growing South Tuskegee University, class of 2008. I actually graduated with 2 degrees, a bachelor's in political science and a bachelor's in English. After leaving Tuskegee, I went to law school at Tulane University School of Law in New Orleans, Louisiana, and then I returned home to Houston, Texas, Missouri City, to be exact, to begin practicing law. I have practiced a wide variety of civil litigation, be it probate administration, personal injury, everything. I'm now doing consumer litigation as in-house counsel for a company based out of Virginia, and I'm also an adjunct professor at a community college here in Houston.
Oh, you got it going on too.
Get it, girl. Get it,
Now
girl.
we got to take it down here to Aggie Pride. Silnitra, go represent that Aggie Pride right quick.
Aggie Pride. Hi, my name is Sunetra Barnhill, and I am a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. I graduated in 2006. I also graduated with my master's from my rival of A&T, Winston-Salem State University, in 2011. And now I'm currently studying my doctorate degree in special education. So I am glad to be a part of you guys, and I hope to share some knowledge tonight with you guys. Thank you.
All right, so we started with a Jaguar, we end with a Jaguar. Jamal Taylor, the mastermind behind the actual event. Jamal, your turn.
Well, thank you so much, Keisha, and I appreciate that introduction. This is a collective conversation. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to fellowship with everyone on. This morning when I got up and fixed my cup of coffee and went outside on my deck and looked up at the sky, I said, I know God favors Southern University because the sky is blue and the sun is gold. And so to be a Southern Jaguar is a powerful thing.
That's
it.
That's it.
So I just had to say that since you said I had to bring it. My name is Jamal Taylor. I am a graduate of the Southern University, the only historically Black college or university system in existence with 5 campuses. I won't name them all. However, I currently have a degree in history, MAT in special education, and an EDM from Columbia University, New York, in education leadership. As I thought through the idea for this, I said, I'm watching TV. I always watch CNN, and I see these panels that are made up of people that don't look like me. More importantly, when I look at those panels, I see one person of color, and most times they are not a graduate of a historically Black college or university. Our perspective, the perspective of people of color that went to historically Black colleges and universities is different. We bring a very unique perspective that allows us to engage our communities differently. And so we will have a very robust conversation tonight. I'm glad with all the panelists. I think we have some really good chemistry and laughing going on. Before I go, though, I would say the biggest part of my idea behind this, and this is Jamal, and I want to say for everyone watching that any one individual opinion is the individual opinion of that person. It's not the opinion of any of the other panelists. But I want us to realize that as graduates of HBCUs, we bring power to the conversation. We bring power to the situations that we sit in. For Jamal, it is important that as we leave this conversation, we have some discussion about voting. Dr. Martin Luther King said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And I'll add this on the end. But whatever you do, take your Black assets to go vote. Okay? And so I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Kelly, and thank you so much.
All right, so just some housekeeping rules while we're on tonight. If everybody could mute their phones so we don't have the feedback unless we're coming to you, unless you're chiming in. We don't want to have the static in the background. So unless you're speaking, we'll just need everybody to mute their phones. We also, it's just like you said, this is just dialogue between panel of HBCU alums. This is an honest time. This is things that people keep asking about. These are things that we want to know about. So I'm gonna give you a rundown of what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna start with HBCU recruitment. We're gonna talk about fundraising. We're gonna talk about our undergraduate experience. We're gonna talk about the influence of HBCU alums. And then we're going to round it off with the protest of George Floyd. We're going to talk about the importance of voting. And with some of the recent events, with Adrian and I being in Atlanta, we're going to also cover some of those things. So we're going to just hop right into this conversation, starting with HBCU recruitment and the importance of such. Whichever one of y'all want to go first.
I mean, I'll start. I think it's important that we have the conversation. And this is actually a personal story for me, because I do have college age children or beyond college age children. My son in particular, who is finishing up his last year of law school, told me very specifically that he didn't want to go to a HBCU when he started to matriculate through everything. And so we had to have a conversation about that. And I think it's because for him, as a child, he saw the HBCU experience as partying, not much school happening. And for him, he felt like because he was going to go straight through to law school, that he wanted to have a different name on his resume or a different background for his experience. And so I think that's why it's very important that we share with the younger generation that the HBC experience is not just always a party, and it's not just, this school is here for you to get an education while you party. And I think that is what people, or how some people view HBCU life. And although he didn't go, he had his reason, and his reasons were valid. And I wouldn't force him to go, because that's his decision. Even though he's my son, like, it's still his decision on where to go. But we really did have to have a genuine conversation about the why and the options that were available.
If it's okay, I'll go next. One of the things, I'm actually an alumni recruiter for Tuskegee. I do a lot of the recruitment here in the greater Houston area. I work with our local alumni association to get materials, find out about different recruiting efforts, and I go. And I love it. I enjoy talking with prospective students about HBCUs, because the same thoughts that they have now are the same thoughts that I had 20 plus years ago when I was preparing for college. Oh, don't go to an HBCU. Those schools are not ranked well. They are not good schools. You're not going to learn anything academically. People aren't going to, recruit you. And I give them my experience. I tell them exactly what happened to me. I wasn't going to Tuskegee. I wasn't going to any HBCU, because I'd heard those things and I believed them, even though both of my parents were HBCU attendees. They didn't graduate from, but I believed it. And it wasn't until I had a very good friend who just spoke some truth into me. He was preparing for a career in football, and he's doing very, very well now. And he said that if he wasn't choosing between LSU and UT, he would definitely go to an HBCU, because the network that you get from an HBCU is not just your school's network. It's the network of every HBCU in this nation. Now, we might, joke and jive with each other, but at the end of the day, if I'm looking at a resume with a person who's gone to an HBCU, I have so much more respect for you. I know what you went through. Our paths may have been, dissimilar, because maybe you didn't get to go to Tuskegee, but you still have that HBCU background. You understand the plight that we went through. And what I saw going to Tuskegee, especially being able to compare between a HBCU and a PWI, is that when people come to recruit for diversity, which everybody, that's the buzzword, diversity and inclusion, they are coming to the HBCU. I don't know hardly anyone that graduated with me that did not have a job.
I'll go ahead and chime in. I totally agree with everything that you've said. Most importantly, I didn't have a choice about going to an HBCU. Both my parents, aunts, uncles, all graduated from Alabama A&M University. So it was, you're going to, it may not be Alabama A&M University, but it will be an HBCU. And it was the best decision of my life. I have made many, many connections with so many individuals across the United States, just walking through an airport, and internationally with an AMU shirt on. And it's like instantly, there's an instant connection. Or I see another one of my HBCU, alumni, and you just have an instant connection. And I think it's so important, especially now, that this is the one place where you can go and just be Black, unapologetically Black. You don't have to explain, you don't have to conform, you can just be who you are and enjoy the experience, because there is nothing like an HBCU education and experience. And I have two sons that attend HBCUs. My daughter unfortunately did not, but she regrets that decision. But I implore all of our young people, if they have the opportunity, if they're not interested, at least visit. Have a conversation with a graduate so that you can get the inside experience, because it's vastly different from the information that they're getting from some of their guidance counselors.
I want to, if I can, just jump in right behind Cresleon and say, I heard somebody say once, we have some people who believe that folks at predominantly white institutions have colder ice than we have at HBCUs. You know, it's this mindset that, oh my, like this white school is so important and it's the flagship of the state. I'm gonna tell you, as a person with an Ivy League degree from Columbia University, they didn't teach me anything. Everything I learned at a historically Black college and university. I learned to persevere, I learned to struggle, I learned to love, and I learned to be a family. That's why folks at Southern bring more folks to folks games than they bring to their own home games. Because at Southern, we teach love, commitment, and just a pride for who we are. And I say that in jest, right? Like all our HBCUs are wonderful places to be. And I want to say, right, like think about that. Think about the idea that people would say, just because this school is a PWI, it is better than an HBCU. It's just that back to the old mindset of, so you think that this PWI has colder ice in their freezer than we got at our freezer at home? Come on home and be part of the historical Black college or university experience.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll piggyback off that. Yes. Today I was having a conversation with someone, and I was like, I went to HBCU, and I'm having a roundtable discussion today, and she was like, I'm not sending my kid to a HBCU. And I was like, why is that? Because we're good. We have a good experience. She was like, well, I just have my biases. And my thing about that is, until you actually experience the HBCU and actually go there, because she went to a PWI, you can't really say too much. I learned everything, like Jamal said, I learned how to struggle. I learned there are people like me that attend the college. And, I learned everything that I needed to get out on my own, being around people like me. So, HBCU is a good experience if you ever get to experience it.
Mom, did you want to add anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of wrap it up on that scene. When it comes to recruiting, for people that are friends with me on social media, I will literally beat it in your head. I will talk about HBCUs 365. Not only am I advocating for the university, but I'm advocating for the athletes. I don't care how many times they tell me that the HBCU athlete or the athlete is not going to choose an HBCU because they're a 5-star. I'm going to tell you otherwise. I'm going to tell you we can still recruit. We still send them to the pros. I'm going to come with examples. I'm going to come with people that I've interviewed. And we don't understand the importance of, even if they don't choose us, you got to expose them to it. It's our job to expose the students to those schools, because a lot of times you don't have the counselors in school exposing the students. They'll tell them, I'm from Alabama, so they'll tell them about the Alabamas, the Auburns. But what happened to the Miles, the Alabama A&Ms, the Alabama States, the Tuskegees, the Stillmans? So you just disqualify the rest of the schools that's in the state because you want to talk about
Your sound went out, Keisha. We can't hear you.
it's just a case of, you have to advocate and tell people about these schools. I have a nephew at Tennessee State that graduates last year. My father, God rest his soul, and my older sister went to Drake State. So we just have to tell people about these schools, and we have to be continuous about what we do. So now we're going to move on to the next thing. One of the most important things is fundraising. Everybody wants to talk about fundraising. And I'm going to start with fundraising. Anthony came back. We're going to start with the fundraising. I'm going to start, when we talk about fundraising, I'm going to start with this one. Lamont, you down there smiling. We're going to start with you to talk about fundraising at HBCU.
Mic check. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So,
young one, we can hear you.
So yes, I would like to speak briefly on fundraising because I am also the president of the Morgan State Alumni Band chapter, and fundraising, this can correlate to HBCU totally. It's very important, and I say that because when you perform in the band as a student throughout your years at Morgan State, when you graduate, the band needs funding. The program needs to run off of the funding of the alumni, uniforms, band trips, buses. So the importance of it is that we have to stick together post-graduation, join your alumni groups, and you need to advocate, and you need to promote, and you need to ask for donations and fundraise throughout the year. Don't wait till homecoming, but you need to proactively do that. And I have been taking the charge on visiting a lot of the alumni meetings. I'm going to the Morgan State Alumni Association meeting, which is the overall alumni association. And there I can speak on behalf of the Magnificent Marching Machine and ask the alumni for donations and explain why we need these donations and fundraising to help our program succeed. Because money talks, and you know the rest.
Come on, that'll preach right there. I felt that right
in the bottom of the belly.
Right.
Well,
I want to also comment. Wasn't Morgan State's band in the Rose Bowl parade this year?
Macy's Day.
Macy's Day parade. There we go.
Last year
Yes,
too.
ma'am.
Last year or year before last?
Last year, 2019.
Representing. It was fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic.
I think the Rose Bowl is Southern University. I'm sorry you confused the two, but we will forgive you. We will forgive you. But let me go ahead and thank you.
Okay, now if you really want to be petty.
Can I have my shine? Can I just have my shine?
So, Anthony, you talk about, since you're the president of the UNCF, talk about the importance of fundraising, because we do have some questions that we're going to address. Talk about the importance of fundraising, because we know how important it is to fundraise when it comes to our HBCUs, when it comes to funding.
So, and thank you, Keisha, for that question, because so often people just get this misnomer thinking that, oh, y'all good because whether you're a private school and you're getting money from UNCF or you're a public school and you get money from the state. No, that's not always the case, because the cost of living and the expenses of running an institution, just like you run your own house, you run your own business, is still there. And so often people just think that it's going to be taken care of by somebody else, just like somebody took care of us. You know, when we were in school, we got to do our part to pay it forward as alumni, to pay it forward to help another student, another generation of young people to get to and through. So one of the things that we're doing, you know, with UNCF and with our alumni is really trying to engage alumni, find all these different creative ways. I mean, we can have all the fancy galas and the balls and the whatever, but however, since, you know, with COVID, we can't do too much of that now anyway. So everything now has to be really just direct giving. And so we got to find these creative ways, but the whole idea is, even in this pandemic, our institutions did not ever close their doors. Whether we even had to service students who could not get home because the school was their only home. For some of our students, school was home for them. So to send them away puts them in a homeless situation. So our school still had to service and support students on a daily basis. And so that's why it's so important as alumni, we have to do our part to support our institutions, because sometimes I mean, just even though I use the equation about how public and private, and again, the funding source, and I'm here in Ohio, and I have two HBCUs in Ohio. We have Wilberforce University and we have Central State University. Now, public and private. Now, does the Central State get as much money as the Ohio State University? Hell no. They get some money, and does any public institution that's on this call, you're getting some money, but when you compare to the institutions, to the other institutions in our states, we're not getting the same amount of money. We know it's not fair, but we're gonna do what we have to deal with, and we're gonna make it happen. So we really need alums to step up and do their part, get past whatever your petty issues were, because I ain't like that professor. They ain't treat me right in financial way. Trust and believe, we all didn't like a professor. We all didn't get treated right in financial way. We all hated standing in line for registration, but we got through it at the end of the day. And now,
Anthony, I'm feeling triggered right now.
I'm just saying, I probably hit on something. You felt that when I talked about that registration line, that financial aid person, that professor, in that cafeteria. I get it. We all have been there. However, let me do a quick shameless plug, because if I don't say this now, boy, the rest of my committee, I got all these different committees, y'all. My fundraising committee would be upset if I did not mention, for anyone who's watching this right now. Again, so on June 1st, we started an HBCU Alumni United Cares initiative. So again, now this group is over 61,000 participants. Again, we've been around since 2007. Many of you all probably just got in here in the month of May. So we went from 5,000 on May 7th now to over 61,000 as of last night, when we had a show last night. And so what we're doing, we're trying to encourage alumni to give, so now we're selecting 3 schools a week. A simple ask, put 5 on it, put 10 on it. Give me something. So I need everybody on this call right now, before we leave out of here today, I'm gonna make sure y'all get the link and y'all can give today. So this week, we are uplifting.
Suno.
We have Suno, Jackson State, and I think Alabama A&M.
Oh, well, I'm about Bulldog.
So Crestline, your dollars better be out there generating. You better have your dollars circulating.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's our
Allen University and Southern University in New Orleans. So those are the 3 schools that we are uplifting this week. So any alumni who are watching from especially those 3 schools, we need you to flood our timeline. Now, look, we get a bunch. Now, Keisha and I are also admins for the page with some other folks. We get a ton of stuff about everything else. Can y'all help us out and flood our timeline with information and historical facts and data and information about these 3 institutions? Let's educate our community about these schools, and let's support these 3 schools. As alumni, I know we can, and I know we will. I know I sound like I got real preaching real quick, but the point is, I need y'all to give. I need y'all to give. I'm gonna keep asking. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna answer some of these questions in the chat, but we need y'all to give. But that's why we need this money, because our schools need it. So it's all going to unrestricted dollars. It's going straight to the school. The money never touches my hand. It never touches my hand. It goes through our Facebook donate page, and then it goes straight to the school. So we just want y'all to come on and put 5 on it, or whatever you can, and challenge your alumni to match your donation. So yeah, Christian, I'm gonna be. Look, I might need you back on Wednesday. I do another show. I need you to come back on Wednesday, talk about Alabama.
Okay.
And I want to just add for everybody, are you paying your alumni dues? Like, are you a part of your alumni groups in your respective state, your city, your town? And just making sure that even being a part, like that's a small ask. And I think I know my yearly membership for Morgan was, I know it wasn't $300. I don't know exactly how much it was, but the yearly membership dues were something you can just pay it one time, get it out the way, or pay monthly, but support your alumni group too, because that way, as alumni, alumnus, alumnae, all of those words and every deviation, you can use that to promote in your respective towns to talk about your HBCU.
And that's another thing that Anthony was saying. You don't have to spend, big bucks. Now, if you got it, HBCUs will definitely accept it. But every little bit that you can do, when our class had hit our 10-year anniversary, we did a challenge to everybody to donate $20.08. Do $20.08 per month back to Tuskegee. And that kind of thing just totally adds up. If you have 200 graduates in a class that are donating that back per month, it's amazing. We have one student this week who stole my idea because it's something I plan to do very soon. But he created a scholarship in his name to give back to the school. Your jobs will more than likely match you. Whatever amount that you're giving to a nonprofit, to an educational institution, your jobs will match you. So take them up on it. One of the other things that I've noticed, especially tying in recruiting and fundraising, is we do so much to get the students to go there, but then when we get them there, they're kind of just there. And so some of my classmates and fellow alumni, we had a Texas Club while we were at Tuskegee. And so we've been reaching back to the Texas Club, donating financially, but also physically giving our time and working with the students and helping them get rides back home, helping them with teachers and course selection, with grad applications and, you know, graduate programs and just life after Tuskegee. And so it's not just about donating the money, which is most important, but it's also the time, the energy, and other resources that you can give. And everybody can give something. You do your part and let somebody else do theirs.
Hey, let me jump in real quick. I'm gonna just do this quick commercial because I want to give a shout out to some people who are actually making the comment. Again, check with your organizations, your employers, because some employers do matching gifts. So again, inquire with your corporations if they do a matching gift program. Someone even made a comment in Qatar. She said, if we want to talk about fundraising, and Jamal, I'm just going to tag this to you just in case you want to talk about it. Thinking about how can we also raise dollars outside of just homecoming, or maybe we talk about raising money within homecoming, because we spend a lot of money going to homecoming and how much do we get back to school. But then the last one is someone made a comment about give to organizations or things that you are passionate about. Like Lamont just made reference, talk about he's part of the band association, so he's giving to the band. So if you're a part of the band, if you're part of SGA, if you're a part of, you know, your Greek organization, you know, give to that organization specifically. If you want to help,
if you want to get a Black college experience, I'm just saying.
So, all right, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Go ahead, Jamal.
So I'm gonna hit this from a different angle, and I will definitely also get to what Anthony said because I think it's important. I do, to Adrian's point, believe in giving to the Alumni Federation. As a Diamond Life member of our federation at Southern University, I gave them a nice check. That doesn't mean anything though. Like, we continue to give, we need to continue to give. And so the other day I did an initiative called Tag a Jag. And I just said, someone in the group was trying to basically, it seemed like down talking amount of a contribution. And so I said, if you got $2, give it. If you got $20, give it. You got $200, give it. And we had 1,100 in 2 days, $1,175 worth of direct impact to the Southern University Alumni Federation. And so that Tag a Jag initiative is how we move the needle and making sure that people know that the ask is there to give. And I think when I think about our historical Black colleges and universities, one of the things that I really don't see that I would like to see more of is a development office. And so those development offices at places like Lander Smith, they had I think a vice president for development, right? You want those people on your staff whose job is to raise money and know how to make those deliberate and critical asks. The other thing that we have to consider as we consider this idea of fundraising is the idea that our state's tax dollars are going to be largely impacted next year. And across the country, particularly in the South, where many of our HBCUs reside, we realize that they get the cuts with everyone else. The difference is some of these PWIs have raised money on the backs of athletes that look like you and I that went to their schools. Mm-hmm. And so they'll use their endowment money to fill the hole, and on our HBCUs will have the impact. And so I would encourage every one of you that if you are a graduate of a historical Black college or university, I don't care if you give $1 tomorrow, but give money, because the hole is there, folks. And the legislators in those southern states are not friendly to our historically Black colleges and universities. There have been several instances where Southern has tried to be merged. There have been several instances where they've tried to move us under another higher education board. And so we need to think of fundraising, but more importantly, the rationale and the reason that we're fundraising for. And I think that's the thing that we don't really consider a ton, but we need to make sure that as we begin to look at next steps for next year, that there will be a budget hole because of this tax fall, because of this coronavirus that y'all's president, Agent Orange, did, okay? Because he did not close the country sooner. So, and again, the opinion that Jamal states is Jamal's opinion and not the opinion of anybody else on this panel.
Well, thank you,
He ain't my
Jamal.
president either, but don't hold us all accountable.
Right, right. Well, to piggyback on what Jamal says, I think also we need to think about how we engage our newly graduated alumni and how we get them a part of the organization. Because I'll be frank, when I originally graduated back in 1991, participating in the alumni situation, or excuse me, organization was kind of last on my list because I was a newly married, had a young family. So now what can we do as alumni to engage those newly graduated alum to give back, to get engaged? What are some ways that we can um, reach out to them? And I'm speaking, to the panel and those that are also listening and watching on Facebook. How and what are some ideas? What would you like to see the national organizations for your institutions do to include you in and to make it more sexy, if you will, to be a part of and want to give and generate those funding dollars for the university? Because as Jamal said, there will definitely be a deficit because of this COVID-19. And I know that I definitely want my university around for many, many centuries to come. So any ideas out there that you have, please flood, so that we can, pass those on to our national alumni associations or our local chapters.
Well, I'll say this because I did have an experience personally with the Georgia chapter. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a different protocol and procedure for every school, but I know the issue that I had with Morgan was there was no streamlined process of figuring out where students go after they graduate, or, like once they move. Of course, I know it's up to us to update our information. So that's obviously the onus is on us. If you want to be involved in your alumni chapter, if you want to be included, then of course you need to communicate with them, update your address, reach out and say, okay, well, I moved to Florida. Is there an alumni chapter in Florida? And make sure that the information is available. I found the alumni group on my own, and it was actually by happenstance. Like I just stumbled upon a Facebook group, but there was no reach out from Morgan directly to say, hey, here's the Georgia chapter to join if you would like to join. So there should be, a communication that's sent. Again, I can't speak for the other schools because I don't know. I'm speaking specifically for Morgan. But if there isn't, there needs to be a way for, like you said, Crescillon, when someone graduates, they may not necessarily be from that state. They may not want to stay in that state. So once they update their information, then the alumni office can say, okay, well, good luck on your future endeavors. We do have a chapter. Here's the information to be able to reach out.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Go.
I know from my school, they would call me and would tell me about the different things they were using the money for. Because sometimes when you graduate college, you're like, well, why am I going to pay this? So when I actually went to homecoming and I actually got to see the new CAF and I actually got to see the new student union and I got to see the bookstore, and I was like, man. So this is what I'm paying my money for. So when you actually get to see where your dollars are going, it makes an impact. It makes you want to give. So whenever I was moved, because I was military with my spouse, and they updated my information every time I moved. So they would call me, and then I would make my donation then. So that's it. So just the key thing is seeing where your money is going whenever you spend it.
Okay, and I agree with that. Transparency is very important. We talk about that all the time. Jamal talks about that all the time. And I think that's why you don't have a lot of people joining things, because honestly, no offense, people that look like us, I don't care if we're paying $25, we want to know where it's going. We need a receipt. We want to know what it's going to. Somebody else might pay $100,000. They don't want a receipt. If I pay $15,000, I need my receipt, because if you backtrack, I need to know where my money went. So the time is kind of rolling, and we want to kind of keep it moving because we are up against time. But I do want to answer, if anybody wants to answer, one person wants to answer this question. It says, my question is, how do we push the powers to be to disperse the $50 million in a lot of HBCU funds that go undispersed?
Ask it again. I'm sorry.
It says, how do we disperse, how do we push the powers to be to disperse the $50 million in allotted HBCU funds that go undispersed?
It's kind of weird. I think I understand what you're saying, and like I had a thought about that because Jamal, when you were talking earlier, it kind of triggered this, and Anthony, I believe too. But I think most of us feel like our financial aid offices and our like the money is very cheap at school. And I know that obviously we have to deal with budgetary restrictions and we have to deal with, Jamal, like you said, we might not get as much money as other people get. But I do feel like, I don't know if any of y'all like this, because I was me. Like I could have $500 in my pocket, right? And it could be bill time, but I just don't want to pay all my bills because I don't want to feel like I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like that's how
guilty. That's me guilty.
You want to see that bank account. You want to see those zeros.
Like I don't want my account. So I gotta look at it and think that it's something there. That's me guilty.
And so I feel like that's how the HBCU is run sometimes, because we do always have money left over, and it just feels like the struggle is consistent with trying to get the financial aid, trying to get the disbursements, and I know Lamont and anybody else that went to Morgan, like going to Montebello was like, oh my God, like I do not want to go to Montebello. Jesus have mercy. But it's just like you go there and yeah, like it's just, and I don't know. I really honestly, it has to be internal. I hate to say it, please don't crucify me, but it's an internal fix because people have to understand that, for one, this is not your money. For two, you have to spend the money accordingly. And three, we account for everything we account for and then tally up on the back end. That's how you're supposed to do it. Like you're supposed to do your audit and your budgetary, you tally. But like, it feels like they just don't want to not see the zeros in the bank.
Okay, so I want to move on, like I said, because we're up against time. The next thing that I want to hop into is everything that's going on with the climate that we're in right now, with everything that's going on amidst COVID, and then now you have the protests and everything that's going on with centered around George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, police brutality, the unrest of the community, because so much has happened. I want to hop into this whole situation with George Floyd. I tell people you protest and you do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. I've been at protests. I've demonstrated the way I felt that was possible. I protested for HBCUs. I've been on the front line, but it's not for everybody. And I don't judge people that can't, because I did. I can't lie to you. I cried maybe 4 or 5 times when I was actually out there protesting, because I understand coming from that standpoint where people are standing. But whoever wants to go first and tell me, in this, it's a pandemic. We're facing a lot of unrest. A lot of things are happening in the wake of George Floyd's death. We need justice. And a lot of people, the tide is turning. And I say right now, you get what you get. That's just what I say. You get what you get. Because that's how people are. We just tired. We've been tired since 1619. It's a true story. So whoever wants to go first, or Janelle, you look like you want to go first.
Okay, I'm gonna let Jamal go first because I saw him raise.
I saw Jamal's finger.
1 second.
I went up.
Janelle,
Ready?
That finger, though, y'all saw that finger. He was like, "Excuse me."
Go ahead, Jamal.
So Archanel, thank you. Archanel, thank you for letting me go first, because this is super, super important to me.
Right.
As a young, Black, gifted, talented, and professional petty person, this crap that is going on in this country is disgusting. What I find more disgusting, though, is that we have people that incite as if people are acting outlandish, that they didn't watch. It seems as if they didn't watch a Black man lynch with a white man's knee. It troubles me greatly that they say, oh my God, they're breaking into stores, yet every video and picture I see is white people with skateboards busting the windows in and starting the drama. And so I am troubled as a Black man in this country by the way that we frequently forgive the behavior of other people. And so as Keisha said, you get what you get. You got a mixed bag because you created a shitty situation, excuse my language. The death of a black man at the hands of a white officer, subsequently the death of a black man that was in a Wendy's drive-thru is disgusting, and a high-tech blue lynching of black men. And so when we have these people that complain, or these celebrities that come on with their righteous indignation about the manner with which we choose to protest, I am deeply disturbed and confounded, because you can't tell me how I should feel about watching a man murdered by a white man as if I were in the deep South watching someone strung up from a tree. And so excuse me if I have no time for the musings of celebrities or folks that quite frankly don't know the experiences of Black people at all. I, as a Black man, am disgusted, and excuse me that I'm a little bit more today Malcolm X than Martin Luther King in this moment, but by any means necessary, we have to change the culture in this country. It is not a negotiation. We've done this for 400 years. It's time now for us to move henceforth to get what is due us in a way that respects each and every Black body that is in this country. Excuse me, I digress and yield back the balance.
I feel like you had that written down ready, because I feel like you had to get that off your chest. I felt like it. I felt it, Jamal. I felt it in my soul. I felt that in my soul. Go ahead, Orange.
That moment.
So at Tuskegee, we have a saying that we lift the veil of ignorance. And I think that as HBCU graduates, we are educated Black people that must do our part to lift the veil of ignorance. Now, I have some friends who get upset with me because when I see ignorant comments, I post so that I can educate. But my education on that post is not necessarily for the person who I'm commenting to. It's for everybody else who's reading it and not exactly sure of their opinion, not exactly sure of their thoughts. What I like to do is come with facts. What I like to do is come with education about what the law is, because that's what I can speak intelligently about. I think that as HBCU graduates, it is incumbent upon us to speak out when we see these issues. If you feel in you that you need to go to the protest, go to the protest. Wear your Tuskegee gear. Wear your HBCU gear. Wear your sorority, your fraternity gear. Let them know that we are present in the community. It is not us who is doing the looting. It is not us who is doing the rioting. I was so proud to watch the videos of our people stopping the other people from doing this foolishness and this nonsense. Now, I say all that, but then we have to look at the entire picture of this. You get upset with people for breaking into stores, for looting and rioting, but then you don't put the skills, the training in the education system to teach them how to appropriately deal with their anger. And then you're mad that they chose their own way, their understanding, how they grew up to deal with the anger. It makes absolutely no sense. This is a full system that we have to look at. It doesn't just start when a person is arrested. It starts from the time that they enter into public education. And as HBCU graduates, we have to do everything that we can to make the change from the very beginning.
I wanted to jump in about Rayshard Brooks for everybody who may not be familiar, because it's new, it just happened. And so I've been very upset with the comments that have essentially been blaming this young man for his own death. People are, I understand the don't resist and everything. So I broke it down to what I deemed elementary school level on my page, because was he wrong for drinking and driving? Absolutely. However, he fell asleep in his car, and whoever called the police because he was asleep in the car. At the point that you spend 30 minutes talking to somebody, they are not a threat to you. 30 full minutes. Like, the police had a conversation with this young man for 30 minutes about, are you drunk? What were you doing? Where are you going? And in these 30 minutes, he was able to say, my sister lives across the street. I can just walk home. Somebody can come get me. We are in a climate right now where Black men are under attack and have been under attack for a while, but right now it's very highlighted because of everything that's going on. So when you have two white police officers standing in your face for 30 minutes, the intimidation is real. And that's what they were doing. This officer knew from the beginning what he was doing, because why do you need to ask these questions for 30 minutes? Like, you had plenty of time to make a decision. Like, what's your decision to arrest him? Where are you going to take him home? Where are you going to call an Uber? Like, what were you going to do? Like, what is your reasoning for having all this conversation with him? So at the point where you're trying to take him down, you're trying to arrest him. Okay, the fight happened. I saw that. We all saw the fight. We all saw the fight. At the point that this young man is running away from you, there's no longer a fight. There's no longer a threat. He is running away from you, and you shot this man twice in the back. What I don't like is that in the society and the culture that we're living in, if you and I got into a fight with somebody, beat they butt, like gave them the whooping that their mama should have gave them, and get up and run away, and they shoot you, they're going to jail. Like, they are going to be immediately arrested and charged with something. But in this culture, if a police officer does the exact same thing that we as normal citizens do, it's okay, we got to figure it out first. Why? Why do you have to figure it out? Why is there a different litmus for them when they do the same things we do simply because they wear a badge?
And if I could just say something to what you said about this young man, Dylan Roof, who was a Caucasian male, went and shot up a black church,
Yes.
and they took his little trifling behind to
Burger
Burger King. Okay? They didn't kill him, but I guess because he would shoot up a church full of black people, it was okay for them. Yet this man drunk in the drive-thru, and he deserved to die. These folks and all of their logical sense has gone out of their head, and they have begun to vilify the black man in a way that's just disgusting. Excuse me, I'm off my soap.
So, Adrian, to answer your question, there's a different standard for police officers, and it's a willful standard. And so it requires more evidence, it requires more. And so that's why it's a different standard. It requires more of an investigation, all of that, to meet that burden of proof. Because willful is an extremely high burden of proof. Should it be that? Hell no. And how does that change? Legislation. That's not the DA, that's not the AG. They don't get to change that. They have to work within the parameters of the law. So if we want that to change, we have to politic with our congressmen, our state legislatures. They are the ones who can make that change regarding that standard.
And you know what I want to say to you before we let you get off, before we end this call? You are the perfect person to kind of speak on defunding the police right now while we're here, because people have the wrong idea of what defunding the police means. And I'm honestly tired of telling people, because they'll say, oh no, we need police, we need education, we need to. I'm like, but that's what defunding the police means.
I am so glad you said that, because you must have been reading my mind, because I was thinking, let's talk about defunding the police so people understand in layman's terms. In layman's terms, please.
Wait, before you go into that, I want to say this. I think at this time, it's a lot of people that don't understand. So I think what we need to do, instead of cutting people, we need to educate people, because some people just don't understand it. And I read my timeline where people are like, oh, you just don't know, and they're attacking people. We can't attack, we got to educate. And that's the problem. When people don't understand something, we educate them. Don't cut them off because when we're ignorant to the facts of something, it's just because we don't know. Everybody doesn't know the law. Everybody doesn't study police stuff. Everybody doesn't know about attorney stuff. But I think we have to educate instead of try to more say belittle people so they'll understand what the actual situation is. Because I'm not the person that's going into the whole thing trying to figure out what defunding means. I know what it means, but I'm not just going to study that now. If you ask me about sports, I can give you a whole rundown of that.
So can Adrian give us like the 2-minute spiel just for those that are on Facebook Live that are watching this roundtable, just to give them an idea in case they're unsure and they're just not clear on what defunding of the police means.
You got 2 minutes, ma'am.
Or we'll give you 5.
Grow up.
But to Adrian, okay, I don't mind giving it. So thank you, Adrian. So defunding the police.
She called you me by mistake. It's all good.
I'm sorry, I did.
That's a bulldog for you. That's a bulldog.
All of y'all look alike.
You're not, sir.
Yes, my beautiful black sister.
Good one.
You was off your soapbox, Jamal. You was off your soapbox. Mike is phone. Mike is computer.
So let me say this about defunding the police. I think that we are in the middle of an attack with improper sloganeering. Defunding the police, in my eyes, and for most of the legislatures that we have, be it federal or state who agree with it, do not see it as totally removing all funding from the police, which is what defunding means. The way that I see it and I understand it after having researched it a little bit longer than Meghan McCain, is
Oh, Patty.
Shots fired, shots fired.
I got to lift that veil of ignorance. I'm a Tuskegee grad. It is removing portions of the funding that may go to police officers and pushing it into other social service avenues that may need it. Now, that does not necessarily mean that there will be cuts to the police force. It's just retargeting the efforts that police have. Police should not be on the scene of an accident, a car accident. We can have different people come and do that. Police should not be dealing with mental health issues. They're not trained for that. I was looking at a video today about police officers interrogating a Black man who was standing on county property, telling him that he was not on public property. County property and public property. How dare you intimidate this man? And then it's also properly training them. There are efforts out there to have police officers doing community policing, which is much better. Integrate them into the community. Now, some people do believe that police officers need to live in the same area that they're patrolling. I don't necessarily agree with that, simply because sometimes when you leave work, you want to separate yourself from work. You don't want everybody knowing Adrienne is a police officer that lives right there on Main Street. Just go to her house if you have any issues. You want to be able to detach a bit. So I can understand that. I think that, like I said before, that we have inappropriate and negative sloganeering with this title. And my question is why? Who are the forces that are doing that? Why are they pushing defunding versus what it actually is, rebuilding? It just
I disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that because we are in a time where we need to advocate for change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't do slogans that appease the people. We need, if we called it something else, like if we were saying, oh, reimagine the police or reimagine the, you know what I mean? Like there would not be these conversations. Like changing the title takes away the power in it, because the power in it, this is, to Keisha's point, an opportunity to teach. However, at its core is the word fund. So the people who are upset and saying that they're going to fire all the police are ignoring the funding part of it. Defunding the police is not created to dismantle or dismember the police force. That's not what it is. It is an opportunity to move those funds, like you said, to another portion. And mind you, they had no problem defunding education. They had no problem defunding other social services and anything like that, where they have already defunded those programs. It's just that you have this military culture of people who feel like if all the money is not going to the police and going to building jails, that we're a failure, or that we're going to fail in some capacity. So that's why I feel like the title has to, like just like they want to try and change Black Lives Matter. They want to take away the titles. They want the title to be a title that appeases them and doesn't intimidate them.
But the problem is defund actually means removing all funding. And like that's the Merriam-Webster definition of the term defund. And so that's why I say it's inappropriate. I agree. Everything that you said that we need to do to rebuild, restructure, reimagine, that's exactly what we need to do. But we got to call it what it is. And there hasn't been no defunding of education and defunding of most social services. There has been a decrease in funding, but that's not defunding. Defunding is totally removing all funding. I mean, it just comes straight from Merriam. I don't know it, but heard of.
Well, I know it worked in New Jersey. So if they got them, because they
Yes,
fired all the police in New Jersey and made them reapply for their jobs, all of them, every one of them.
I think you're speaking of Camden, New Jersey. That is the
Yes.
perfect example, and that's what people need to look at. It wasn't that these people got a job; they actually ended up hiring more police officers, but their duties, their roles, their responsibilities changed, which took the stress off of them and off of the community. And it ended up prospering the community so much more. Now, many of those police officers were rehired for county positions and not city positions, but I thought that it was great. And I think that there's so much more, that goes with this police reform. If somebody has been charged with or they're alleged to have police brutality, they should not be fired from one force and then rehired somewhere else. There needs to be a database. We need to know who you are. You don't get no job as a police officer anywhere else. You're done.
And why are we finding out about it before the people who were involved? Like most of the police officers, they get a job somewhere else in another country, state, city, whatever. We find it out on social media and the news, and the victim is like, wait, what?
Exactly.
So we definitely need to do something. Like they shouldn't be. Once you're not a police officer, you should not be a police officer, period.
Okay, so I want to ask them. I want to roll into the next thing. It is some questions on the floor. There is a question. I guess this is to kind of go back, and this is going to kind of catapult. It's kind of a two-part thing. This is a question from one of my friends. She used to work in athletics at Morehouse. Her name is Katara Key, Lincoln University. Her question is, what is the best way to cultivate alumni outside of homecoming? Because we know homecoming is a stomping ground. So how do we bring alumni in outside of homecoming? How do we get those in? How do we get them active? How do we get them financially active? How do we bring alumni in to be interested in our institutions?
Didn't Anthony ask that one already?
I asked that question.
Oh, okay.
She kind of, she just, added hope.
I'm glad we put a pin in it, so now we can go back and finish that statement.
Sorry.
Yes.
I think this is a primary example of doing that, right? Like using Zoom. And so just so I make a shameless plug, I am running for the second vice presidency of our Alumni Federation nationally. And one of the things that the second vice president is responsible for is membership recruitment. And I think one of the things that I have seen going chapter to chapter remotely now, talking to them, is this idea that they are seeing 10 times more people participate because we're doing the conversations on Zoom, right? And and I'll give you an example, Keisha, there's one alumni chapter in Georgia for the Southern University Alumni Federation. And so if you're 2 hours away, it makes it really difficult for you to go to every meeting. But if we do a hybrid meeting and invite people that are 2 hours away, and they still have the opportunity to come down for the Mardi Gras ball y'all throw yearly under the wonderful leadership of Miss Rochelle Wicker, I think that it opens the doors for that participation, that engagement outside of the traditional ways. I think the other thing that we have to consider as we globally open our minds to like technology is that some of our alumni federation chapters need some training and development on technology use, particularly our older alums. We had some alums that are really uncomfortable using tech, but when we have our alumni conference, they come, do a tech class, ask the tech department at the university to engage them or to come to wherever the conference is and engage them. But I think unless we do that, unless we think outside of the box, this kind of stuff will happen. And if you're a Southern alum and haven't cast your ballot, go send it.
Oh, before I move on, let me give her due just. She said Lincoln, CAU, Morehouse, and Livingstone. Give me my credit. My bad, Katari. My bad, okay? My bad. Let me give you all of your credit. But I do. Jamal, to piggyback off of that, I think that's very important because you actually came over to talk about the Atlanta chapter, which I am the public relations officer. And so I think a lot of times it's all about exposing the chapter. You got to tell people. People don't know what they don't know. So I can't participate in something I don't know about. If it's something that's coming out, I got to be able to advocate. You got to advertise it. You got to market it. You got to tell people about stuff. A lot of times we don't like change. A lot of seasoned people don't like change. And you got to move. We're in 2020. You got to use social media. You got to use whatever avenue you got. Email, social media. We using text messages, whatever you can. And I think a lot of times we don't like that type of change. We don't like to move into that change of social media. So, I did just want to make sure I addressed that and gave her due just because she was not going to let me make it if I didn't tell all.
You know what, and Keisha, I'm just gonna add to just to say, I think that is a great comment that you made, because we have to start using this form of technology and resources. I mean, this whole pandemic, if it's taught us nothing else, it has forced us, alumni chapters, small business, mom and pop grocery stores, churches, for that matter, has really forced us into this world of technology. Either you had to deal with it, or you had to get out the way. And I love the fact that, like Jamal's saying, much like he's been, I mean, I've been across the country now. If I could get frequent flyer miles just from Zoom, man, I have me free trips everywhere. Because now I'm able to connect and touch with all my alumni groups from everywhere, and to be able to really bring this home. Because just as much as we put all this advertising and promotion around homecoming, then why can't we do that same kind of energy around our alumni galas, around our fundraisers, around our scholarship dinners, around our meet and greets? And sometimes it doesn't even have to, and then someone made a comment earlier, I don't remember who the person was, they said, sometimes it just made an engagement is just to get alumni involved, just to get them to a meet and greet. Don't ask them for money right now, but I think if you can get people involved in programming and activities, then they'll understand, like, wait a minute, this event costs money to put this. How much can I support? What can I do to donate? That goes back to that earlier statement. Can I put $5 on it? Because sometimes I don't have the hundreds and thousands of dollars, but if you just engage me in conversation and get me just to kind of reconnect, now I'm like, okay, I can see the value in this, and I want to give back and support. And that's what we really have to do. And, you know, using platforms like this Zoom or anything else that we're using now to be very creative, to engage alumni is so apropos. I think our schools are going to be stronger and better and wiser because of this whole situation. You know, though we went to it kind of like, oh my God, this pandemic, but I think we're going to come out of this thing like, you know what, we got some new resources, because nothing was birthed out of convenience. Anything that we have was birthed out of necessity. And so our schools, I think, look, we've been through a whole lot worse. You know, since many of our schools started, you know, we can go back to almost civil war for some of our institutions. We've been through a whole lot worse. We're going to get through this.
Okay, anybody else before we move on? Because I do want to tackle one of the most important things in this climate right now, which is voting. We know how important voting is. And right before Adrian stepped away, I did, if anybody was paying attention, we are both, Adrian and I both are here in Atlanta. I joked and I said, I'm like the older person. I wake up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning to get to the poll, to get my poll and get my vote done and get out of the way. But we saw the meltdown that came here on last week. I just say the biggest part of voter suppression, because, you know, they gave out the numbers. If anything was going on, you couldn't vote. You know, they had so many things. And once again, one of my friends had to explain to me, because she worked at the voters poll, she was explaining to me. And I think it's really unfortunate that in 2020, we're still facing this same stuff that we were facing years ago, in hopes of people turning around, not voting. I said, listen, I'm on furlough. I don't have nothing to do with my time. So I'll stand in line all day long. I meant it. I truly meant it. So luckily my time was only like 30, 40 minutes. I think the lady knew I wasn't playing.
Oh, so we might have had a connection issue with Keisha. We're going to just give it just.
We got some storms here in Georgia. So.
Oh, y'all going through down there. Y'all going to be all right? Is it just?
I think she's back. But yeah, I mean, it was just bad weather that was rolling through. So probably down on her side. But I think for me, also to Keisha's point about Georgia, I think it's hard enough to get people engaged with voting, the ones who aren't committed, right? It's hard enough to get the people who aren't fully committed and engaged in voting to vote. And then when you see situations happen like here in Georgia, it just makes it more disheartening and more of a struggle, because in Georgia, it's just like, wow. So like even when Kemp won the gubernatorial election, it's just like, how can you have a situation and opportunity for someone who lost and who obviously took away voting machines, closed voting locations, changed voting locations, and was just doing things. And wait a minute, even at the core of that, was in a position that he was supposed to resign from in order to run, but never resigned, and they let him get away with it. So it's like when you see situations like that, you're like, So why am I voting again, or what's the point? Because all they're going to do is take it away. And so I think we have to, and it's unfortunate because we know that people will vote. You know, it's like when Obama was elected, we see that people can come out in droves with the right amount of momentum and push behind them, but it just shouldn't be that hard all of the time. Like, it should not have to be that we are begging and pulling teeth to get people to vote.
I think here in North Carolina, what I'm running into is not that we can't vote, is the two people that we are voting for. A lot of people are not educated on what they're voting for. So they say, okay, so we got Biden and Trump. So I'm not going to vote for either one of them because I don't like what they do. And I say, why? And you can't give me a reason why. So that's what I'm running into now. It's not that we can't vote. It's like, what are we voting for? And do they have a strong campaign for us Black people? I know us, we want to know about that racism. We want to know about the, you know, women issues, you know, so that's what I'm finding out now. You know, education is what we need really in the community.
One of the things, so this year I actually worked as a campaign manager for a judicial campaign here in Fort Wayne County, and it was eye-opening to say the least. We had an amazing candidate. We didn't have as much time just because of when he entered the race, but we hustled hard. And when I say hustle hard, like we hustled hard, going door to door. This is before COVID hit. Going door to door, educating whoever we could talk to about our candidate, about the issues, about why they needed to vote. And in 6 weeks, we were able to get 23,000 people to come out and support him. And that was excellent. It wasn't enough to win, unfortunately, because there was higher turnout for the other candidate. But I think that, one, politicians need to do a better job of talking individually to the candidate. Number two, I think that people need to do a better job of listening to the candidate's actual platform. Three, I think that just about every state has an early voting window. Use it. Utilize that early voting window because you never know what happens on that last day. And then four, we have to make sure that we're working with our parties. If you're a Democrat or Republican, whatever it is, you're working with your parties, your local parties, to ensure that we have several voting locations. One of the biggest issues for Georgia this year was that they cut down so many in the Atlanta area. They cut out so many voting locations. So you all ended up having to go to less voting locations and being stacked deep on election day. And then the machines didn't work, which I still believe was Russian hackers, but okay. But we need to make sure that these polling locations are closed. Just because it's not a high amount of traffic there, we still need that open. If we have 30 senior citizens that use this place, we have to make sure that they are able to vote. I know that a lot of people have some issues with ballot by mail, but that may be the next best option for right now, until we can find something else that's even better than that.
Yeah, I like to go
add to
stand
that.
in line. I'm a stand in line person. I like to be in the mix. I don't care if I'm there for 8 hours. I'm that person. It can be 100,000 people. I'm that person. I got to be in the mix. That's just me.
Yeah, I think to your point, Lady Tuskegee University. And to your point, I think we have to be deliberate about how we're standing up for ourselves, particularly in areas, because the one thing we didn't really get into is access to a vehicle to get to a place, and public transit systems that don't work. And so in our low socioeconomic communities where it matters most, we remove the voting poll so that people have to travel further, which is for me, an obstacle to voting. I think the other thing is, as all these protesters are protesting, I hope somebody's signing them up to vote. But more importantly, protest yourself in a car and bring somebody down to the polls with you to protest by making sure that Orange Man, y'all's president, is no longer the president in November. But more importantly, realize and recognize that we have some down ballot races that are really important. And I think we don't really consider that. But folks, in many cities, the chief of police, the sheriff, whatever you want to call them, is elected, or they are appointed by the mayor, the city council, etc. You need to be involved in those down ballot races. More importantly, More importantly, and I've seen this across the state of Louisiana, and I'm just gonna say it, and y'all can be mad at me and throw fruit at me later. But there are some people that look like us that ain't for us. And you need to make sure that the people that you voting for, not I'm not gonna use the term because it's gonna be inappropriate, but you gotta make sure that they look like us and they are us. And I'm not trying to be ugly, but
So
they
you're
get in
saying
office.
that all skin folk ain't kin folk. Is that what you're saying?
There you go. There you go.
And I believe that, but make sure that you're getting the correct facts about them. Don't allow these people to lie and distort somebody that looks like us's record just because they have an alternative agenda.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we don't really get into. Like, people think that Donald Trump is causing this. Folks, in Minnesota, there's a chief of police that had some practices. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I think that he is responsible for how these folks are acting here currently, overtly racist, etc. But I also believe that there was a chief of police, a mayor, a city council in Minnesota that needs to be held accountable for what happened to George Floyd, more importantly, to the guy in Atlanta. And I see that the young lady resigned in Atlanta from being chief of police and moving to another position. Ma'am, pack your shit and go. As Bernie said on Waiting to Exhale, get your and get out. You don't need to stay. We ain't got nothing for you. When you cannot be in control, you need to go. We need to stop giving people the opportunity to fail and fall up. When you have failed to meet the expectation of a group of people, you got to press. Soapbox again, sorry.
Well, can I just say, all to wrap up everything, education, education, education. Do your research. We got to get our young folk who just got their driver's license, when they go in there and they say, would you like to register to vote? Their answer should be yes. We need to reach out to them and make sure that they get to those polls, cast their ballots. For those of you living in Northern Alabama, we have a runoff election coming up in July for a Senate seat. Tommy Tuberville versus Jeff Sessions. The lesser of two evils, I don't know, but show up, because there's some other individuals that are on that ballot, Madison County Commission and others, that need our vote. So educate yourself, do your research, do your homework, and make sure when you go to the polls that you make an educated decision based on what's best for you, not necessarily your neighbor, but what's best for you.
And let me also just jump in there real quick and just say, it's funny, Chris, like you said that, because there was a Qatari, I think I'm saying her name right. She just said the very same thing. She just said, educate. So I wanted to just give her a shout. Like, I don't know if you're reading the chats, but she literally said the same exact thing.
I am not, but we have that thing going on.
Thing, I know. And also, to remind our viewing audience, again, make sure, I'm saying this, it's a shameless plug. Hit the like button down below, because we got to make sure that this is being impactful and it's being helpful for you, that we know we can do this again. Also, you see, for most of us, you see our Instagram names underneath our names on the picture, so follow us. You can continue the conversation. And finally, I want to add, Jamal, you made a comment. I want to add, because actually, thanks to the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, because, just like Lamont was doing a protest today in DC, some of the brothers here in Cleveland were doing some protesting today, and one of my good brothers, the chapter president of Delta Alpha Lambda chapter, Lester Holmes from Xi chapter from Wilberforce University. I'm going down his whole bio, right? He's like, Anthony, we're actually out at the protest, but we're doing voter registration and they're doing census. So it's, so they're actually trying to make a change. They're trying to get people registered to vote and people to actually exercise their voice to make sure people are knowing where they are in their community. So again, people, you got to register. You got to get these young people signed up. You got to get counted. I put a link in the description so you can make sure that if you want to, they got jobs for these census jobs. They got jobs if you want to go work the polls. Let's change the narrative. We can be part of the change. And when you out here doing the registration and you out here doing the census, put on your Bethune-Cookman, your Tuskegee, your Southern, your Morgan State, your Tuskegee, all that. Put on your A&M, put on your got A&T, put on all your shirts, all your Greek shirts, and represent. All right.
I just had an idea that I feel could be a great opportunity for those who are in education and for those who are in alumni chapters. A lot of the reason that these other positions aren't voted for as heavily or they aren't paid attention to is because they are unaware. So I think it's a great teaching opportunity to do, and of course we're not trying to sway their votes in any way. But if you just do a class when it's coming time for elections to say, these are the people, this is their stance.
Well, before you go on, if you're a 501c3, you can't. Like, you can't sway that in a 501c3 because we have people advocate. You can't do that. Like, I know we can't. I know personally, you can't do that in a 501c3.
Well, that's why I said it wasn't to say vote for this particular person. I was saying that it highlight who the people are and what their platform is. I'm not saying, no, this is the person you need to vote for. I'm saying educate them on everyone and every position. Yeah. That of course, I know you can't do that. You can't just say, look, you better go and vote for so-and-so. No, I'm saying take the ballot sheet, judges, Senate, whomever, everybody, whatever is happening, and say, this is the person, this is what they stand for, this is who they are, and let them make their own opinion, but give them the knowledge to know it's not just about president and vice president all the time.
Oh, and can I also add the poll workers? Can we get poll workers that's under 70 years old? Because all the poll workers, can we get some younger poll workers? We need some young folks at the polls, man. We need some young folks that know about the technology, because the poll workers are like my mom's age, and that's part of the problem.
And just to add to what you were saying, Adrian, the way around that for a 501c3 is to create a political action committee, right? Like, make sure that you're investing in having your political action committee where you can then go out and say, this is my endorsed candidate, this is who we're supporting as a collective. There are some rules, and so you need to talk to your general counsel about them. But I would suggest to you, if you are interested in making sure that people have the right information, make sure that you're going through that general counsel. Let's try to set up a political action committee.
Got you. That's it.
And I'll also add this. The ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated have a connection committee where we do this type of work, exactly what you're saying, Adrian. We try to inform the public in a nonpartisan manner about all of the candidates, all of the offices, and explaining what each office does, because I'm seeing that there's a lack of civics training, civics education within our community. But I'll also add this year, this election is so important, not just to get Donald Trump out. That is, agenda item number one. But this year is so important because we are getting ready for redistricting. And your state legislatures will be drawing the lines. These lines will determine not only how much funding education gets for the different schools, the different school districts within your community, but who your next leaders will be. So it is paramount that we pick the right people for these jobs, for these positions going into this year, in addition to completing our census.
Anthony, what is our time looking like?
Wow, we are now about an hour 23-ish. So we okay, but okay. But I know we covered all the topics.
I think we did cover all the topics. I want to make sure that we didn't leave anything out. Did we leave anything out? I think we pretty much covered everything.
I think if I could jump in, I think the one thing that we didn't really get into, and I, if I may, was the influence of HBCU alums.
HBCU alums.
And if I could take the lead on this, and I think that was part. Yeah, thank you. I think the big thing for me is making sure that not only are we educating people, right? Like, to put a bow on this, make sure that you're running for office. Make sure that if you have a voice that you're running for office. I want to see a wave of historically Black college and university alums across this country running for city council, running for judge, right? Running for mayor, running for president, running for Senate, whatever the case may be, whatever tickles your fancy. Because without our voices, we have people that are skin folk, but ain't kinfolk, right? We need to make sure that this group of people across this country are mobilizing this energy that exists and keeping it kindled. And you do that by being the voice on our city councils, our school boards, et cetera. We have so much power and so much ability as a collective of historically Black college and university alums. And that's why this conversation was so important to me. Because I feel like we're an untapped resource. W.B. Du Bois talked about this idea of the talented 10. We have to be the people that are going to pick up the rest of people, right? And so I say to you all, right? Like encourage people in your community to run. Orjanelle, I think you said you were a campaign manager. I've managed a couple of campaigns. I've probably about 10 now. Some we lost, some we won. I mean, and that's just the way it is. But at least we were in the fight. And that's what I want to encourage people that are watching to remember. At least you were in the fight. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
I like that. And I'm one of those people. I travel a lot. I'm in the store. I'm out a lot. I'm just out a lot. So if you don't see me in a Black College Experience t-shirt per se right now, you're going to see me in something Southern University. And I always make this running joke that when I make it, because I'm going to make it to TV one day, they're going to get tired of seeing me on TV with Southern University stuff on. They're going to be like, does she have anything else to wear? And I think it's very important. That's one of the ways that we recruit. Every time I'm out, if I see somebody's t-shirt, Morgan State, Bethune-Cookman, A&M, Tuskegee, North Carolina A&T, Morgan State, whoever it is, I'm making the conversation. And I'll stop somebody like, okay, I see you Tuskegee, I see you Alabama State. And then of course the conversation goes to where did you graduate from? And then we start having the conversation. So I think it's on us as alumni to advocate. We have to advocate for our schools and stop thinking that if it was good enough for Big Mama and them and us, that it ain't good enough for our kids. Half our kids ain't 5 stars. Half our kids ain't even 3 stars trying to play the sport. So if it was good enough for our grandma and them, it was good enough for us.
She said grandma and them, y'all. All right, so while we trying to work on Keisha's tech issues again, they ran into some storms.
She's still talking too.
Right. Bless her heart. The passion is there.
Just come here, just pick it up. So listen, thank you. I want to just kind of just chime in there real quick. Jamal made a good statement. So if there anyone who's watching who's watching us still right now, or if you know of anyone, please if any alumni that may be running for any type of political positions or any school board positions, any type of leadership roles, alumni associations, all that kind of things. If you're running for office and you're trying to let your voice be heard, drop that information in the group so that way we can at least be able to see, so we can be able to maybe we can educate our community of alums, as well as being able to maybe support, endorse, and get involved to share things of that nature. So again, if you're running for any kind of office, whether alumni association, city council, school board, judicial, whatever it may be, just put it out there so people can be able to know what's going on. Because if we don't know, how can we vote and be involved and be a part of? So let us know what's going on. Keisha, you back? Are we good? Are you?
I am. I was kind of reading the comments. They were talking about Orjanelle when she started talking about AKA and her introduction. They were laughing at you. So yes, that was it. But I want to close this out. I truly appreciate everybody for joining us. I appreciate Jamal for this idea and allowing me to host Morgan State, Bethune-Cookman, of course, Southern University, Alabama A&M, Tuskegee, North Carolina A&T. We appreciate everybody for joining this platform. We appreciate everybody's input and everything that everyone had to say. I don't have any more closing remarks, Anthony. I don't know if you want to once again, Jamal, before, take yours off mute and go ahead and throw your shameless plug out there about you campaigning one more time. And then Anthony, take us out with your whole donation thing. We got to get it in when we get it in.
And I'm going to put a little bit more than a shameless plug. You can't give me the floor and then I don't cut up. But anyway, I would say a couple of things. Dr. Dolores Spikes, who was the first female to ever be the president of a historically Black college or a university system in this country, Black or white, was the president of the Southern University system. And she said, you don't have time to linger. You have to be about the business. And we need to be about the business across this country as HBCU alums to invite a fire and light a fire across this country with regard to our historical Black college and university systems. More importantly, if you haven't sent in your ballot for second vice president for the Southern University Alumni Federation, make sure you send it in for Jamal. If you send it in and it wasn't me, ask for it back and change your vote. If not, and you don't want to vote, but you still have your envelope, mail it to my house so I can just go ahead and fill it out for you. All right, thank you.
So before I even give the closure remark, I'm going to just say, I'm going to yield the floor to anyone else, to all of our other alums. That shameless plug, talk about ask for the ballot back. That's hilarious. So if anybody else want to chime in, give some closing remarks, again, just a closing thought, maybe a shout out to your school or anything happening in your community with your alumni group. Anybody want to go real quick before we get up out of here?
Well, I'll just give a quick shout out to the Alabama A&M University Bulldogs. That's right. Start here and go anywhere. But I really enjoyed having this conversation. I think it is so important that we have more of these. I think the next one that we give, you know, we touch on some taboo topics like mental health in the Black community, some of those things that we really need to start having conversations about. So I love networking with people, and you all have been it for me. I can't wait for the next one. And Anthony, I will be looking for that information about alumni fundraising so that I can spread it to my network.
Got you. It's coming.
Well, I want to say thank you all. Like, I appreciate this time. My shameless plug is if you need a publicist, holla at me. I'm promoting you. I know what I did with the name. That's how you find me. People don't understand public relations. A lot of, for those of us who follow celebrity and entertainment news, there is a very deep issue that's going on with one of your favorite influencers right now that could use the help of a publicist. I ain't saying no names, but you know, if you Google it, you'll find it. But you know, holla if you need help with your branding and your exposure.
Cool beans. Anybody else?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sanel.
I wanted to say I really learned a lot, and I thank you for allowing me to be on this. I just want to say two things: that networking is good when going out of your college experience, because without that, we wouldn't have been able to come together in all different types of parts of the country. And education is good. Educating, making sure you know about your history and knowing about what we're voting for come November. And I want to give a shout out to the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. I forgot you guys, lady. I know y'all see y'all in the group, so I just want to let you get it. Z5.
Lamont, you got anything, Lamont?
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback on Ms. Barhill. She mentioned networking. So we all have our Instagram tags on here. Please share if you had any interest in anyone's background, universities, stories that you heard. Drop your emails, exchange, send direct messages. Networking is how I call it the Black wealth. This is our Black wealth. Open your mouth, send a text message, and network with the people who can get you or probably your kids somewhere else in the world. That's all I have to say.
And of course, I'm Black College Experience. I call myself the Hounder. I'm going to be hounding you about interviewing the Black college athlete. I'm coming for the athletes. I'm coming for the sons and the daughters. I'm trying to interview the commissioners, the coaches, and everybody that's coming through athletics. I'm going to find you. So if I'm going to find you via text, I'm going to find you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I'm going to find you. So you can't hide too much longer because I'm going to find you and we going to interview.
I have one for you. Coming. My son plays football at Morehouse. We'll talk.
Okay.
Whose house?
Run's house? No, silence.
And I guess I'll be the last one, saving the best for last, Tuskegee.
Y'all see how Tuskegee do.
They show out every time.
I think, first of all, I love this. I think that this was great, and I hope that everybody gets a chance to watch it, and everyone who did watch it loved it and enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing it. I think that it's important that as alums of HBCUs, we do as much as we can, while we can, how we can, and when we can. Don't feel overburdened. Just do every little bit that you can. And hey, Tuskegee alum.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to appreciate you all for joining us and tuning in and sticking in with us as long as you could. Whether you popped in and you came back out and you left, and whatever the case may be, you're going to come back and you're going to share this with somebody else a little bit later. I want to thank Jamal and Keisha for really coming to and reaching out to me to say, hey, Anthony, can we be able to use this platform to be able to have this courageous conversation with alumni from all different parts of the country and all different schools, and to really kind of bring together this, to kind of weave this narrative of ours. So I greatly appreciate it. This is not the last of the HBCU Roundtable. I don't know if I'm gonna always have this crew. We'll maybe have another. I mean, we might bring some other people if they can't make it on any given time. But know that we want to continue this conversation. We love the fact that we're doing this. This is just something else that we want to do within the HBCU Alumni United group. You know, again, we started off with a few people, then we just keep growing and we keep growing and we keep growing. So keep tagging people, keep inviting folks. Know and understand, look at the group expectations and rules and the guidelines, so you don't come sending me a t-shirt email talking about why my stuff got deleted or denied or canceled. Read the expectations so you'll know. We go through a whole lot. Y'all have no idea. But we want to remind you one more time before we get up out of here. The HBCU Alumni United Cares campaign right now. This is in week 3. The first 2 weeks, we've already raised over $3,000 for both weeks. So we want to see if we can we're trying to break this ceiling, y'all, and really try to make an impact. So again, this week, we are raising money for Alabama A&M University, for Allen University, and for Southern University in New Orleans. So again, the links are in the chat. We go from now until 11:59 p.m. Saturday night. On Saturday evening, we'll spin the wheel, and who knows what 3 or 4 schools we'll pull next week. So it's just all the luck of the draw. Check me out on Wednesday. Wednesday evening, we'll be doing another live, another conversation. We'll be doing some one-on-one with some alumni from those 3 institutions to kind of do some shameless plugs and to be able to advocate for those 3 schools for the rest of the week and kind of give you some updates where we are with fundraising. Because Alabama A&M, they saw the post last night around midnight and been they're already over $600 right now. I believe they're over $600 already.
Tuskegee's just waiting.
And I know Tuskegee's just waiting for their turn. I know they are.
Southern University gonna take over both of that. Don't worry about it.
We want to just say thank you, and to all of our schools that are doing any kind of fundraising, even though we're supporting our 3 schools, but certainly you still give back to your school as much as you can, just as much as my school, Bethune-Cookman. We got our day of giving tomorrow, so this is going to be a virtual national thing. So whatever you can do for any of our schools, I guarantee you, any school is going to be appreciative of whatever they receive. Again, it's been fun, but we gotta run until next time. Like I always do, all the invites. Shoot for the moon. You miss, you always be amongst the stars. Know that you are a masterpiece because you are a piece of the master. Always make time and take time for what a little look at life has to offer just for you. And like I always say, nothing is impossible. Why? Because you can look in the mirror every day and say, I'm possible. That's all we got, y'all. That's all we got.
Good night. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.